Welcome to the Knicks Film School post-game show. Well, I think this might officially be the last time Jonathan and Andrew decide to bring fellow Knicks Film School fans to the Madison Square Garden with them because they can't seem to come home with a win. And I subbed in for them last year when they brought them to the Knicks home game, and they lost that game too. That was against the Los Angeles Lakers. And the Knicks fall to an Orlando Magic team that were missing Jalen Suggs, Paolo Banchero, both Wagner brothers, Franz and Mo, Gary Harris. They did not play a player in this game that averaged more than 10 points per game. Yet the Knicks managed to lose their third straight. They fall to the Magic 103-94. We have a lot to talk about. We'll take your super chats as we move forward here on our post-game show. So got a bunch of things we got to talk about here, guys. First and foremost, to quote the great Jeff Van Gundy, this is a make or miss league. And the Knicks, who have been in the midst of a really bad shooting slump, and we'll get to that first because I think that's really the bottom line here in this game, they shoot 4 of 22 from 3. And that's after starting the game 3 for 6. So you can do the math on that. Mike Breen talked about it towards the end of this game with how the Knicks closed it. They missed 15 straight three-point shots. You're not going to win many games when you're 4 of 22 from 3, especially on a night where you're missing Karl-Anthony Towns and you're missing Deuce McBride. Jalen Brunson, 8 of 21, not quite good enough. Mikal Bridges, 10 of 20, that was fine. Didn't get quite enough out of OG Anunoby. I don't really think he made much of a mark on this game, especially defensively, where you really see him make most of impact. Just 4 rebounds, 3 assists for Anunoby in this game, scored just 9 points. Jericho Sims was active, but just 4 points, and you could see his lack of offense really impact the Knicks over the course of this game. And then you look at the bench. Precious Achiuwa was a minus 14. Campaign finished a minus 3, but in the first half, I made note of this, he was minus 7 in the first half of this game. And that was at halftime when the Knicks were trailing, I believe, by just about that many points. They still can't trust their bench. I thought Landry Shamet was okay in this game, to be honest with you. I thought he couldn't make a shot, just like everyone else on the roster is 0 3 from 3. But I thought his defense was at least pretty strong in this game. And the Knicks just could not make a 3. 4 of 22, 36 of 81 from the field. And the Orlando Magic, on the other hand, and I don't want to make too much of this, the worst three-point shooting team in the league heading into this game, 31%. They finished 11 of 31. So they outscored the Knicks in this game by 21 points from behind the three-point line. And they defeat the Knicks by 9, 103-94. The conversation begins and ends there. The turnover battle was equal. They both had 12. Rebounding battle was about equal, 39-38 in this game. So if you're looking for why the Knicks lost, because again, hit the broadside of a barn, folks. And this, frankly, has been a pattern. In their last 7 games, they've shot 68 of 223 from 3. 30%. 30%. Now, because as they had a good stat on MSG during the game where they noted the Knicks have led the NBA in points in the paint per game during that stretch at 64 points per game. They've still managed to win, even though their three-point shots are not falling and have not fell. But you're going to run into a team like Orlando, despite the fact that they missed so many of their starters, where they're not going to let them get points in the paint here. And they're not going to let them get easy runs to the basket. And we saw that with Jalen Brunson. They were switching big guys onto him. He made him shoot over them. I thought they were extremely disciplined on defense. Knicks, again, only attempted 22 threes, which is not a large number. This is off the game in Chicago where they only made 8 threes on 30 attempts. So I thought Orlando, they're always going to play good defense. They're a well-coached team. But the Knicks had opportunities to make shots in this game. They couldn't make them. Mikal Bridges, 1 of 7 from 3. Brunson just took 1 3, 0 of 1. That was a really long one early in this game towards the end of the shot clock. Josh Hart, 1 of 3. OG Anunoby, 0 of 3. Landry Shamet, 0 of 3. Campaign hit one late, 2 of 5. Precious did not take one. I guess he hit the side of a backboard on one. His foot must have been on the baseline on that particular shot. But the Knicks have to get out of the shooting slump. You go back to the Oklahoma City loss a couple days ago, and the reason Knicks lost that game is because they scored 41 second-half points. Now, I did not love the offense in the fourth quarter of that game. I thought they tried to do too much up top of Brunson. They stopped attacking mismatches with Karl-Anthony Towns. They stopped attacking mismatches with Mikal Bridges, but they still miss shots and they turn the ball over. Now, turning the ball over was not a huge problem in this game. Knicks actually did a pretty good job with that over the course of this game. They just had 12 turnovers. That's not a bad number. But you have to start making threes. And, the Knicks play the Thunder on Friday. Knicks Film School is going to have a watch party at T-Squared Social on that night. Go down, hang out with the guys. But if you want to be a team like the Thunder, who are one of the best paint protection teams in the league, you're going to have to make some threes. You're going to have to make some jump shots. And like I said, the Knicks have been 30% from three over the last 7 games, and just 4 of 22 in this game. That's 18%. So that's going to continue to dip as the Knicks, continue to shoot the ball poorly. Now, why? Why are they shooting the ball poorly? Now, I'm usually in the Jonathan Macri camp where I'm not going to go nuts on Tom Thibodeau for the way he manages his minutes. In the end, there's a huge difference between 38 minutes and 35 minutes. I don't know. It's hard to say. Is it tired legs that's having this shooting slump at this point of the year? I don't know. I got the tired legs, back to back against Chicago in the last game. Now they scored in that game, but Chicago doesn't play very good defense. But you could tell their defense was really lacking in that game. And the Bulls, went off and, they made a bunch of threes in that game. But is it too many minutes for the starters for why they're missing threes? I guess I could be sold on that, maybe. But you just got to make shots. Jalen Brunson's been up and down with the shooting. OG Anunoby, you hope it's not the elbow and he's just in a little bit of a slump. He hasn't shot the three well in a few weeks, to be quite frank with you. And if Karl-Anthony Towns is in there, again, you can get away with this, right? And he brings a different facet to this offense. When I was on with John, what was it, 2 weeks ago now? Maybe it was last week. It was we recorded the day after Christmas on the 26th, I believe. And one fun conversation we had was who was the Knicks' second most indispensable player. And we both agreed Brunson was the most indispensable. I don't think anyone would have an argument with that. And the second part of that conversation was, is it OG Anunoby or Karl-Anthony Towns? And I think I managed to convince John and come to my side on the Karl-Anthony Towns argument. And my case that I made there was that so much of the Knicks offense revolves around the space he gives you, his passing out of the high post, and just his ability to be used as a fulcrum of his offense. And we saw that in some ways with Isaiah Hartenstein late in the year last year with the handoffs, dribble handoffs, top of the key, his passing. Towns obviously a far better offensive player than Hartenstein in terms of scoring, but he's similarly used as a fulcrum of the offense. And I think you saw against a really good on-ball defense in Orlando, and I think we saw them switch a lot up top. They have versatile defenders, even, guys like Bataze, guys like Wendell Carter. They can switch as bigs and be okay. Brunson did not completely abuse those matchups the way he usually does when he gets, some of these guys on him that he thinks he can attack and beat. And again, Brunson didn't shoot great in this game, just 8 of 21 from the field in this game for him. But you need a guy like Karl-Anthony Towns, and I think you really felt his loss on offense in this game with the way the Knicks want to play. And if your threes aren't going to fall, like the Knicks threes haven't fallen in the last few games, and certainly did not fall tonight again, 4 of 22, you need a guy like Towns to dominate in the paint and allow your offense to run in a way that's not just high screen and roll with a Mikal Bridges or Jalen Brunson and things of that nature. Now, I'll give the Magic credit, and this is a hit to the Knicks defense a little bit. You can't let this Magic team shoot 50% from the field. And the reason I bring that up with the Knicks offense is that they really could not get anything going in transition to get easy shots. You had a couple plays in the fourth quarter of this game. 2 straight possessions where Hart tried to create some energy, got his own rebound, got on the break, scored a couple baskets. I think that cut it to 6 at one point. Then you had a miscommunication on a switch, and it turns into a Wendell Carter layup. Wendell Carter, who heading into this game, pardon me, I brought up the stat because I thought it was significant. Heading into this game, Wendell Carter Jr. was shooting 16% from 3. 16%. He makes all 3 of his 3-pointers in this game. I think 2 of them came in the fourth quarter. Cole Anthony, who had played himself out of the rotation for the Magic this year. On the year, Cole Anthony, again, I wanted to make sure I had the stat for you. 38% from the field, 30% from 3. shoots 9 of 18 from the field in this game, 3 of 6 from 3. Look, the Knicks gave up only 103 points. I can't kill them for the overall defense. But you would have liked, with all these injuries the Magic had, to force more than 9 turnovers, to get out and run a little bit more, to get some of those fast break points. Knicks just had 8 fast break points in this game. You know, if you force them to shoot under 50% from the field, maybe you force some misses, you get some more defensive rebounds, you can push the ball a little bit. The Knicks played this game at the pace the Magic wanted to play it at, because the Knicks defense didn't create enough turnovers, didn't get those takeaways to create that pace that they wanted. The Magic slowed this game to a crawl, and the Knicks were way too satisfied to play at that pace, and they couldn't force the game into a faster pace with some of those takeaways and, you know, forcing turnovers, getting out and running, and it turned into a half-court slog. And for an Orlando team that was missing a lot of their guys, they wanted this game to be a half-court slog, and that's what they turned it into. And the Knicks didn't shoot well enough to win a half-court slog, because when they got open threes, they did not make those shots. And they only attempted 22 of them. And when they shot them, they didn't make them. Knicks shot just 44% from the field, 36 of 81 overall. If you look at just the 2-point shots, I'll do quick math in my head here. They shot 32 of 59 from 2-point range. Guys, that's not bad. It's well over 50%. But the 4 of 22 from 3 kills you. 16 assists on 36 makes. That's not great. And again, I think we've seen this in the past. I think the Knicks have gotten better at this. But I think Towns is one of the reasons. When teams switch a lot, the Knicks struggle to generate really good offense. You take away some of that great passing that Brunson's orchestrated in the pick and roll, where, you know, you create some passing angles with the defense rotating, and Brunson's done a good job finding guys. I think early in the game, you found some baseline cuts in this game, things of that nature, where the Knicks did get some easy shots over the course of this game. But I think the Magic eventually made the Knicks try to score one-on-one, and Brunson didn't shoot well enough, didn't have a good enough game to take advantage of that. Bridges was fine, but 10 of 20, 24 points on 20 shots, that's okay, but not great. And it's funny, I mentioned Brunson. He was still, other than Landry Shamet, who was a +1, was still +3, which was the best Knick number than any other starter. Payne was a -3, but again, that kind of got helped by some garbage time at the end there with a couple baskets late. So, again, guys, Knicks have to start shooting better. This is not a trend that started today. This is a trend that's been going on for a while now for the Knicks in terms of their lack of shooting. And it's something that they're going to have to fix as the schedule gets tougher. And look, they're going on a homestand, but the Knicks have been through a pretty soft part of their schedule. You beat the Wizards a couple times. You got the Raptors. Spurs were a good team. But it's really a situation where they played a really soft part of their schedule, even though some of those games were on the road. And now it's going to get tougher here. Got a lot of home games coming up. That's great. But the teams you're going to play are a lot more difficult. And the Knicks are going to have to start making more shots. You got the Raptors coming in Wednesday, but then you have the Thunder. You get the Bucks. You get the Sixers, the T-Wolves, the Hawks. There's a Pistons game squeezed in there too. So you're going to have to start shooting the ball better if you want to start winning some of these games. And again, I don't want to simplify it, make or miss. I'm sure there's going to be complaints about, you know, bench usage and stuff, though. Precious and Shamet both played over 20 minutes in this game. Cameron Payne played 12 minutes. Should we start having a conversation about Tyler Kolek playing instead of Cameron Payne? I'm open to that. I think Precious is going to play. Landry Shamet, again, I think he's been pretty good. You need Deuce McBride back, and you hope you can get Karl-Anthony Towns back again. It's that, you know, tendonitis in the knee. We saw him kind of get banged up a little bit at the end of that game. Stephen Bondy had a good report that he was still lifting weights after the game against the Bulls. So I think that's not really where it's from. This is kind of something that Cat's been managing all year. So something you have to figure out and manage as the season goes along. But again, the Knicks have to start shooting better, folks. And really, that's what it comes down to in this game. Make or miss league. The Magic outscored the Knicks by 21 points from behind the 3-point line. And it's going to be hard to win games when that happens. And frankly, this is not the Knicks, you know, from 1994 playing Penny Hardaway and Shaq, where games are in the 90s. You can't really score 94 points in the modern NBA and expect to win. And that's what the Knicks scored in this game. They actually shot free throws well, 18 of 22. But again, you can't shoot 4 of 22 from 3 and expect to win many games in the modern NBA. All right, let's get to our super chats, guys. We appreciate you being with us here. We'll take your super chats. We got 8 or 9 from before the game ended, and then we're going to have a bunch more from after the game. So get your super chats in. We're happy to take them as we talk to you right here on the Knicks Film School postgame show. All right, this one from Mythic Monty. Mythic, thank you for the donation. Is there a bigger drop-off from Cat to Jericho Sims? Offensively, no, there is not. You could actually hear it at points in the game with the crowd when Sims would get the ball at sometimes point-blank range and just would refuse to shoot. He'd dribble it off and hand it off. He has trouble catching passes. Defensively, I thought he was active. I thought he was pretty decent at the rim. He did a pretty good job on the boards in this game. Did Jericho Sims. He was fine in terms of rebounding and defense. Grabbed 10 rebounds in 29 minutes. Had a block shot in the game. But offensively, it's a completely different ballgame. And I think you see that lack of space as well. You saw a lot of times, and I have my notes here from the first quarter, there was a play when OG Anunoby drove right to the basket, and Jericho Sims is literally standing under the hoop. His guy's there, makes the shot a lot more difficult. He misses it. And I think it just shows when you have Sims there, he's setting screens, teams ignore him. You can really give more attention to the ball handler. I mentioned a lot of switching. They did some trapping out there on Brunson, too, and Bridges. Again, when Sims is setting those screens, it just doesn't do a whole lot because you don't have to respect Sims at all as an offensive player unless he's catching a lob at the basket. That's really the only part of his game offensively that makes any threat to the opponent, which is a big, big problem. Thank you, Mythic. Appreciate the donation. Let's go to our next super chat. This one from Khalil. Again, thank you for the donation, Khalil. We appreciate it. Playing 4-on-5 on offense is flaring up my PTSD of the old Knicks. Yeah, that's true. And again, I think this goes back to the Jericho Sims conversation where, look, this is why Karl-Anthony Towns transforms your offense. This is why the Knicks, I think right now they have the 3rd best offensive rating in the NBA. I haven't checked it since the end of the game, but he transforms your offense. He's a special talent offensively. Whether it's switches and him punishing small guys in the post, which by the way, I thought he should have done more of in that game against Oklahoma City. But you have to respect him outside. And when he's out there, the paint just becomes wide open because centers cannot leave him to go into the paint and try to block shots and bother Jalen Brunson and bother Josh Hart driving and bothering OG Anunoby driving and bothering Mikal Bridges driving. That's why Cat's special. That's why he transforms the offense. And look, this is a bigger conversation. I know a lot of Knicks fans are looking forward to Mitchell Robinson being back. And so am I. I think he's going to help, especially in certain situations where you need defense. And when Cat's not in the game, I think you go back to playing a little bit a different way and you're a little bit more rugged, offensive rebounds and all that stuff. It's great. But I do think what you see is that if you want to play Mitch and Cat together, I do think that reduces Towns' offensive impact. Because once again, you're playing 4-on-5. Now, Mitch is better than Jericho Sims, but it's not like he has an offensive repertoire. So I do think when Mitch comes back, it'll be interesting to see how they use him, who they use him with, and how they utilize him as part of this team that has become one of the best offensive teams in the league. Because if you put him on the floor, I think in the end that can reduce what the Knicks' effectiveness is offensively. Khalil, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it. Good stuff. Appreciate you donating. And Freeway Hustler 21. That's it. No more effing excuses about who this guy trusts and don't trust. If he can trust Sims to start, then everyone should get a shot to prove something. Well, I don't think he wants to play Jericho Sims, Freeway Hustler. I think that's been shown, given that Jericho Sims has been pretty much out of the rotation for the better part of a month. But when your starting center is hurt, somebody's got to go out there. You want to maybe try Ariel Huck-Porty at some point? Sure. That's fine. Are teams going to guard Ariel Huck-Porty? Probably not. Can he make them pay a little bit more than Jericho Sims, who, again, was just 2 of 4 from the field in this game, scored just 4 points? Sure. Is he a better passer on the short roll? Sure. Is that going to help the Knicks shoot better than 4 of 22 from 3? No. And when you're missing your best players, you have to play guys that you don't normally want to play. Jericho Sims played 29 minutes. Precious Achiuwa played 22 minutes. You want to say, oh, more Precious. Give me more Precious. Well, he was a team worst minus 14 tonight. You know, he just doesn't give you what even, frankly, Anthony Towns, maybe that's a little strong. But he doesn't give you the rim protection that you need because he's undersized. Now, can he do other things? Sure. I think you could probably, and I think the Knicks did a good job kind of shifting over to more of a switching defense in this game. They switched everything. They still had some miscommunications at points, and I had some notes here in the fourth quarter where they had a miscommunication that led to a cutting layup for Wendell Carter. There was another miscommunication that led to an open 3. Anunoby got caught on a Jonathan Isaac off-ball screen for a 3. Look, I get it. You want to talk about changing guys on the bench? That's okay. But the Knicks starters in this game, just to give you an example, they combined to shoot 2 of 14 from 3. One made 3 from Josh Hart. One made 3 from Mikal Bridges. And they attempted 14. So 2 of 14 from free for the Knicks starters. 35 minutes for OG. 35 for Brunson. Those aren't ridiculous minutes. 41 for Josh Hart. 42 for Bridges. That's a lot. Not going to argue that. But look, you got to play somebody when Anthony Towns is hurt. And does this result change if it's Ariel Huck-Porty instead of Jericho Sims? I don't think it does. And again, Precious Achiuwa, I know he was 5 of 6 from the field, scored 10 points, had just 2 rebounds in 22 minutes, minus 14. So I'm not sure Precious would have been the answer in this game either, to be totally honest with you. Free Will Hessler, appreciate the donation. Thank you so much for being with us here on the KFS Knicks Film School post-game show. All right, Khalil D, with Goga on bench, I would have tried OG at center. Yeah, you know what? Could you have put OG on Wendell Carter? Probably. You know, if Wendell Carter tried to post up OG, I think you say, all right, see what you can do. And if, you know, you start taking it to him down there, you can adjust. You could go small there. I don't think that's necessarily something that I would argue with. And then I guess what you would take Sims out of the game. You would have OG in there at center. And then I suppose your other guy in would be Landry Shamet or Campaign. Now it didn't help that Landry Shamet shot 0 of 3 from 3. And as Will Clyde Frazier so eloquently put, shot on a beeline because just line drives on those 3-pointers. And I've been impressed with Landry Shamet as a defender. I think he's been very active, and sometimes he gets overpowered a little bit. He's undersized, especially against bigger guards and wings. But he's very active. He's got good hands. He tries hard. But his shot, you know, he kind of started his NBA career being a really good shooter. It's fallen off a little bit. So that being said, again, if you do that and you go OG at the 5 and play small, yes, you can spread the floor. Isn't the point in those situations, though, to try to shoot more threes? And on a night when the Knicks shot 4 of 22 from 3, is that necessarily going to help you? Would I have liked more than 22 attempts? Sure. But again, I think this was a situation, too, where you saw the Magic switching a lot late, where it wasn't so much doubling, which is why you didn't get a lot of these, you know, cross-court passes, swing around the perimeter, find the open 3 type of situation. So could the Knicks have, with OG at the 5, you know, done a little bit better in those one-on-one matchups and attack those switches? Maybe. But is Landry Shamet giving that to you? Yeah, I don't know. So could have tried it. I don't think it would have made a difference in the game, to be totally honest with you. Khalil, thanks for the second donation. Really appreciate it. And you checking us out here on the Knicks Film School post-game show. PA for Ochai, does the starters' net rating concern you? It's a good question. I think Precious is going to have to be part of a trade. He's a good defender. The player you're talking about trading for there. you could talk about that. I'm more, and then Jonathan and I talked about this when we potted together a couple weeks ago. I think you need the guy I'm trying to focus on here is that 3-4 combo player. I'm still terrified of what happens when OG Anunoby misses some games with an injury. We all held our collective breaths when he went splat, quite frankly, in that game over the weekend on the floor, but he got up and he seemed to be okay. After that really, really hard fall when he kind of landed on his elbow. He's had tape on his elbow for a few weeks now. His shooting hasn't been the same. So if I'm making that trade, and if I'm trading Achua, I have to get back somebody that I feel okay about playing if you lose Anunoby for a few weeks, which, look, I'm knocking on wood here. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but consistently, Achua's gotten hurt in his NBA career. And I think the Knicks have to be ready for that when it happens. So I think when the Knicks use their very, very, very limited trade assets, and I mean limited trade assets, you're looking, the fake Wizards pick, which is really just, going to be a two. You have the pick swap, which I think you really need to hold until it's a deal that's really going to help you. Mitch, when the trade deadline hits, is he even going to be playing yet? I don't feel optimistic about that, to be honest with you. And if he's playing, he's certainly not going to be in shape yet. We know how long it takes for Mitch to get in shape in those situations. So, that's the type of player I think that you can get for Precious in this situation. Does it move the needle for you? Maybe it does to reduce the minutes of those guys. But I think with the way Shamit's playing, and I think when Deuce gets back, and again, I'm open to playing Tyler Kolek instead of Cameron Payne. You got plenty of guards. Guards aren't the problem, to be totally honest with you, with the Knicks in terms of where they are. So I think you got plenty guys there. Agbaji for Toronto this year, 11 points, 4 rebounds. He's 6'5", 215. He's a good defensive player, just 24 years old. I would be more inclined to try to get a bigger player rather than somebody else that would eat up some of those backcourt minutes. And that's what I would try to attack, more of a 3-4 than a 2-3 when I make a trade like that. Drew P., good question. Thank you for the contribution. Appreciate you being with us. All right, let's keep going through our super chats here. Hey, Robert W. Cross. John the Gem. I haven't got that one before. I've gotten Schmeelk and Cookies. That's been a nickname before. But John the Gem, I'll take that. Longtime fan of Big Blue. Going back to the Crunch Bunch days. I wish there were winning games like the Crunch Bunch days. Shaking my head with Shane and Dable back. Shaking my head. We can do some Giants if you want, folks. I'm honestly happy for once. I've been, I do an hour show every day in the Giants. I'm happy to do some Knicks here. I know Giant fans are frustrated over that. We can get to that if you want. But all right, if you want to get to that, we can. Robert, I appreciate the contribution. Thank you very much. I want to get to the Knicks stuff first. And if a couple other guys want to do some Giants at the end, I'm happy to do that as well. The King, Robert W. Cross. I didn't get the first time in a long time, though. I was disappointed. All right, Hush Z, what's up, Hush? Team looks unmotivated right now. Such a bad loss. Hush, I was kind of thinking about this during the game. And I know, Mike Breen and Walt, Clyde Frazier talked about how they thought it was a low-energy game. And I think to an extent it was. I don't necessarily disagree with that. But I think, and this goes back to if you're a baseball fan, right? And your team just can't hit the ball that day, and you're facing a pitcher that's in all spots. He's got his breaking ball working. You have 3 hits in the game. You lose 4-0, and you turn on WFN after the game, and everyone's like, oh, the Yankees, they had no energy today. Oh, the Mets got shut out. No energy. Well, does hitting the ball create energy, or does having energy help you hit the ball? So do the Knicks look like they have a lot more energy in this game if they're actually hitting some of their shots, right? Does that energize them? Does it seem like they have more energy if they're making their threes? And I think there's a cause and effect there. Which way does the cause and effect go? I think is a fair question, to be totally honest with you. But could they have been maybe a little bit more aggressive on defense, like I talked about towards the beginning of this, where you pressure the ball a little bit more? I did think their ball pressure, and I'm sure I didn't see Tom Thibodeau's post-game pressure. I'll try to, go through some of the Twitter feeds here to see if there's any quotes from it. But, Could they have had some more ball pressure and intensity on defense to create some of those takeaways, to create some fast break points, to create some energy? Yes, I think that's fair. Do I think they saw the lineup the Magic were throwing out there and probably took their foot off the pedal a little bit? Yeah, probably a little bit. Probably a little bit. Could that have been overcome and mitigated if they actually just made 3 or 4 more three-point shots? And I'm not talking shoot 50%. If they could have just went 7 of 21 from 3, that's 9 more points, right? And the score might look a lot different. That's all I'm saying. But look, hush, was the energy high? Did they come out playing balls to the wall defense like they did against the Thunder in the first half of that game? No, they did not. And with Karl Anthony Towns out against a team that plays really good defense and plays very hard in the Orlando Magic, who now, by the way, are just 3.5 games behind the Knicks in the standings in the Eastern Conference, wasn't good enough. And sometimes you got to generate your own energy, and the Knicks certainly didn't do that in this game tonight. Thank you, Hush. Appreciate you chiming in and appreciate the contribution. Deadward 604, appreciate your contribution, my friend. Not sure what's worse right now, our 3-point shooting or our 3-point defense. It was the 3-point shooting. It was definitely the 3-point shooting. 4 of 22 again, 18%. You know, Orlando got some threes in the second half of this game. I think you live with some of those threes, especially with the guys that were shooting them. I mentioned earlier in the program, Wendell Carter heading into this game was an 18% free throw shooter, 3-point shooter. So I think you get to the point where, I'm not saying let him shoot it, but you certainly don't make it a key point to rotate hard out to Wendell Carter when I think he made 9 of 50 threes or 9 of 51 threes, something like that, before this game. You know, sometimes you got to tip your cap to the guy that's not a good 3-point shooter and he makes them. Cole Anthony, 3 of 6 from 3 on the year, 30%. Shot 50% from 3. The Magic, 35.5% overall in the game. They're 31%. So that's not too much of an outlier in terms of where they've been over the course of the year. But look, tip your cap to the Magic. They made some big shots in the fourth quarter. Knicks tried to make runs a couple times in that fourth. I mentioned a couple heart plays where he had a couple, coast to coast where I think he got fouled on one, made a basket on the other. Bridges had a couple of mid-range shots to cut it to 5 at one point. Out of the 6-minute timeout mark, Brunson made a couple straight shots to cut it down to 6. Then continuous Caldwell Pope makes a 3. That puts the lead back up to 91-82. Precious Achiuwa had a big block. You think you're about to have some momentum. Then he tries to hand it off, turns it over. Wendell Carter makes another 3. So it was just one of those games where every time the Knicks thought they looked like they might start to make a run in the fourth, Orlando managed to make a 3, and that kind of stopped any momentum the Knicks would have had. And again, tip your cap. Orlando, not a good 3-point shooting team on the year, but they made the threes when they counted in the fourth quarter of this game. Thank you, Deadwards. Appreciate it. Great job in the Super Chats tonight, guys. Really appreciate it. Robert W. Cross, we're back. 1TLT, JTG. Okay, there's a lot of acronyms there. Can we get Tibbs to extend the bench and play talented kids? Okay, I'll just answer that question because I don't understand the acronyms. Sorry, I'm old. I'm probably not as old as Robert, but I'm also not one of the kids. Look, I'm okay playing Tyler Kolek. I'm down with that, but I don't think you play him and Cameron Payne. And I think in a game where you're missing Towns and Deuce, it's hard to want to extend the bench even more. I mean, guys, Jacob Toppin and Matt Ryan are not going to help you win games. Do you want to put, Pacome Daddier and try him as a wing? I'd be open to that. John's made the point that when he's playing the G League, I think him and Jeremy made this point a couple weeks ago on their weekend Knicks Film School podcast, that when he's playing the G League, Pacome Daddier is not dominating. Can he be a helper? Make a couple threes, play a little defense? Sure. To cut some of the time from the Knicks starters? Maybe. Would I be open to Tyler Kolek playing? Yes. I think defensively that's going to be an issue. I think teams will attack the hell out of him. But he knows how to run offense. Great passer. Can make a 3. And again, the other big, if Cat's playing, Sims and Porty aren't, because you have Achiuwa back there. So, sure, But I don't think that solves a problem in a game when you're 4 of 22. And again, I'll give you the stat again, guys. Last 7 games, Knicks have shot, and this is not including this one, when the Knicks shot a whopping 18% from 3. And that only got better because Campaign made a 3 late in the game here. Knicks have shot 30% from 3 in the 7 previous games, and they shot 18% tonight. So do the math. There were 68 of 223. You count the threes tonight. Now 72 of 245 over the last 8 games from 3. Hard to win games in the current NBA when you're doing that. Play the talented kids, sure. Is that going to make much of a difference? Probably not. And you look at this game, especially in the first half. Again, it swapped a little bit in half number 2. But the Knicks trailed at halftime of this game, and I'll give you the exact score. At the half, the Magic led 53-51. And at the half, Campaign was -7. So in the minutes that Brunson was out, the Knicks were winning the game. So I think for Tom Thibodeau to be convinced to play the bench more, the bench has to play better. Now, I'm sure the argument, we'll play them more, they'll get in better rhythm, they will play better. Well, Tom Thibodeau gives minutes to guys that he thinks will help you win games. And you guys might not like that, but that's the way Tom Thibodeau operates. So until these bench players, and I think he's liked what he's seen from Shamet, which is why he's playing, frankly, a lot more than Cameron Payne over the last week since he's been back, 2 weeks maybe, whatever it is now. The guys that help you win games are going to be out there. You go back to the Oklahoma City game. I don't disagree that maybe these guys were tired in the fourth quarter. But when they put Brunson and Mikal Bridges on the bench for the first 3 minutes of the fourth of that game, an 8-point lead evaporated in 3 minutes. They couldn't function offensively. Now, I think part of that was on Thibodeau for not staggering Brunson and Bridges his minutes in that game. But the bench has to play better, too, to earn Tom Thibodeau's trust to keep them on the floor longer. And to Robert's point, and this is a fair one, if the vets, the Cameron Paynes of the world, aren't doing enough to earn that time, maybe it is time to give a guy like Kyler Kolek a chance to prove that he can give Brunson a few extra minutes. You know, in a game like this, maybe Huck Porty does give you a little bit more than Jericho Sims offensively. Maybe not. Maybe they fizzle out. I don't know the answer to that, but clearly the bench is not giving them enough to earn more minutes to give the starters a little bit more of rest. All right, let's go to our next super chat here. Thank you, Robert W. Cross. Let's go to Kyle Kagan. Thank you for the domination. Where are the Huck Porty minutes? Yeah, we already talked about it a little bit, Kyle. If you wanted to try him instead of Sims, that's great. I mean, Tom Thibodeau's talked about this. I think he trusts Jericho Sims' defense a lot more than his Huck Porty, and I don't think he believes the offense Huck Porty gives you makes up enough for what you lose on the defensive end. I'm not a big Jericho Sims fan. It drives me nuts a little bit. It's kind of Nerlens Noel-ish, and not the good Nerlens Noel year, but the bad Nerlens Noel year all over again, where he can't catch a pass. And Noel, frankly, at least he had a little bit of a jump hook. Sims does not have that. So, look, I get it. I wouldn't mind seeing Huck Porty in this game. But again, does that change the fact you're 4 of 22 from 3? Probably doesn't. And to me, that's the reason you lost the game. Thank you, Kyle. Appreciate the contribution. We'll continue with our super chats here. We'll do one more, and then we'll do the scoreboard a little bit. Another one, where are the Huck Porty minutes? Well, I think I just addressed that one, so I won't, bore everybody with repeating myself, but that's kind of where you're at here, man. Like, again, 4 of 22 from 3. I don't think Huck Porty in there for Sims is necessarily going to change that, and I thought Sims was fine defensively in this game in terms of what they did. So that's kind of where I'm at with that in terms of those minutes for Huck Porty, which, again, I'd love to see him, but I don't think it would make too much of a difference in a game like this when the Knicks cannot hit the broadside of the barn from deep. All right, let's go very quickly to our scoreboard here. I want to make sure we get our sponsor read in for our scoreboard. Again, I want to thank Andrew Claudio, by the way, for giving me a chance to do this. Really appreciate it for giving me a chance to do this post-game. Love talking Knicks. Don't have the Bank Shot podcast anymore, but I'm really happy to talk some Knicks with you guys. And I thank Knicks Film School for giving me a chance to do this. I really do appreciate the guys giving me an opportunity. It certainly is a lot of fun to talk Knicks basketball with you. Get a free draft beer when you tell them KFS sent you to T Squared Social. Visit www.tsquaredsocial.com to learn about club memberships, trivia nights, sports leagues, and much more. All right, let's go through the scoreboard here. You guys know the Knicks final already. I'll go through the rest of them. Bulls win another game. They beat the Spurs 114-110. Zach LaVine, 35 points, 10 rebounds on that game. Victor Wembanyama put in 23 points with 14 rebounds in that game for the Chicago Bulls. The other finals I'll do first, then I'll go to the games in action. Grizzlies defeat the Mavericks 119-104. We did find out Kyrie Irving has a bulging disc in his back, so both him and Luka Doncic not playing. Jaren Jackson Jr., 35 points, 13 rebounds. PJ Washington led the way for Dallas with 17 points. Timberwolves, they squeaked past the Clippers 108-106. Anthony Edwards, 37 points, 7 rebounds, 8 assists in that game for the Timberwolves. Pacers, they continue to win games, guys. They beat the Nets 113-99. Tyrese Halliburton, 23 points in that win. The Bucks, they can up to 18-16 now. 128-104 win over the Raptors. RJ Barrett, 25 points in the loss. Giannis Antetokounmpo, a triple-double, only 11 points, but 12 rebounds and 13 assists in that game for the Bucks. Pistons get to 500, 18-18. They beat the Blazers 118-115. Anthony Simons with 36 points for the Trailblazers. Cade Cunningham, 32 points, 6 rebounds, 9 assists for the Pistons. Suns beat the Sixers 109-99. I believe this is the first game where they moved Bradley Beal to the bench. Kevin Durant, 23 points. Tyrese Maxey, 31 points and 10 assists in that game. And then one game going right now, the Miami Heat with Jimmy Butler on suspension. They lead the Kings, who just fired their head coach, as we know, 28-23. Tyler Hero with 12 points in that game. DeMar DeRozan with 8. That's 28-23 with 11 minutes to go in quarter number 2. So that's your scoreboard, brought to you by T Squared, where the Knicks Film School is having their watch party on Friday against the Thunder. I will not be at the watch party. Actually, I should go into that game with a buddy of mine. I'm pumped up. But you can go to T Squared Social at 7 East 42nd Street in New York City. You get a pregame hangout with the KFS crew. You get free admission. It's awesome. It's a great place to watch a game. A lot of ways to keep yourself entertained, a ton of TVs, and you can hang out with, Jonathan Macri and Andrew Claudio. What's better than that on a Friday night? And then you get to see the Knicks try to get some revenge on the Oklahoma City Thunder, for which one of the better games of the year over the weekend, which had me throwing things at my television in the fourth quarter of that game as the Knicks could not close it out. All right, let's go back to the Super Chat. Sam Garcia, when do we get concerned about the three-point shooting? You should have already been concerned about the three-point shooting. Now, do you worry that the Knicks players have forgotten how to shoot? I'd say no. Karl-Anthony Towns is a good shooter. Mikal Bridges, after being super hot in December, has cooled down a little bit. He's even missing corner threes. I think he's just in a little bit of a slump. Jalen Brunson, as John brought up, I forget which postgame show it was on. It might have been the Oklahoma City Thunder postgame show. He has not shot the three consistently well over the past month either. We know OG Anunoby, since he's had the elbow issue, he has not shot the three well. Josh Hart is Josh Hart. He's kind of up and down as the season goes along. And, Deuce McBride, who frankly is one of the team's better three-point shooters, he's been out. So you put all that together, it's a problem. Yeah, you got to shoot the three better. Am I concerned long-term? No. I think these guys are good shooters. They'll figure it out. Am I concerned in the short term that they're going to keep losing games until they start hitting more threes, especially against a team like the Thunder on Friday, who, again, the best defensive team in the league, one of the best defensive teams of all time. I mentioned I got all mad that the Knicks scored only 41 points again in the second half. Well, Celtics scored 27 points against them in the second half over the weekend. So their defense is awesome. The Knicks are going to have to start making threes if you want to beat some of the better teams in the league, and even a team that's really shorthanded, like the Orlando Magic were tonight, without Ben Caro, without the Wagners, without Jalen Suggs, and all those guys. So just something to kind of keep in mind here. All right, let's keep going with the Super Chats. Thank you, Sam. We appreciate it. Trying my best. Thank you for the contribution. Do you think someone like Pacome or Ryan is so detrimental that they can't get 10 minutes a game and bring Mikal Hart from 40-plus to 35 minutes instead? I don't know the answer to that. I do not think Matt Ryan is an NBA player that you can play regular rotation minutes to, especially in bigger games against better teams, like in a playoff game, say. I would not trust him. He's not a good enough shooter to make up for his deficiencies on defense. I know he's got decent size. The Knicks know a lot more about what Pacome Daddy can do than we do. They see him in practice all the time. Again, as I mentioned before, he has not dominated the G League when he's played there. And, you know, I think the Knicks are just wary of some of his rookie mistakes. And I know Knicks fans get frustrated. They don't think Tibbs wants to play the young guys. But when the young guys show they're ready and they can help, he will play them. And we've seen that with young guys. You know, they just don't. And look, Daddy A, he's a really young player. When they drafted him, he was not a guy that really people thought he was going to be ready right away. But could you get to a point here where you need to cut down those minutes a little bit? And you have to at least see if those guys are going to kill you for, you know, a 7-minute stretch in the second quarter or a 3-minute stretch in, you know, in the end of the third or start of the fourth, if you put them with the other starters. And I do think one thing Thibodeau can do a little bit of a better job of now, he's been forced to this year because he's only playing 2 or 3 bench guys a game, is staggering. So if you slide in one of those guys, Ryan or Daddier, can you do that with Towns and Bridges, or Brunson and Towns, or Brunson and Bridges? Probably. But again, the problem we've seen is that the Knicks do not play well when their bench is in. So maybe you do have to try new guys. Remember, though, generally speaking, rookies in the NBA are not good players. They don't help you win a lot of games. That's just the nature of the league at this point. So, and the Knicks know a lot more about these guys than we do, again, seeing them in practice every day. So I would trust Thibodeau's judgment, to be totally honest with you. But I do worry about the big minutes. Bridges can handle what he's handled his whole career, though I thought I saw him dragging a little bit in the second half of this game, to be honest with you. You know, Josh Hart, we know, can play a lot of minutes. You hope it doesn't catch up to him. But a guy like OG Anunoby, I do worry about his minutes a little bit because of his injury history. So I hope the Knicks do figure this out. And again, I don't think that's the reason they're shooting poorly. Could it be tired legs? But again, is 38 minutes versus 35 minutes a huge deal? I don't know. I think I land with Macri on that, but I wouldn't mind seeing, you know, if you want to try the guys for a few minutes, that's fine. But again, you got to shoot better at 4 of 22 from 3 in a game like this. All right, thank you. Try my best. Appreciate the donation and you being with us today. Let's go to our next super chat. Armand Bernage. Hope I did not butcher that last name. This is a Tibbs special. He starts out great everywhere he goes, but it never ends well as Act gets tired and his teams fall apart. I did take a drink there. I wish I could tell you there was some Jonathan Macri juice in here. Some whiskey after that loss. Just water. Guys, the idea that this team has quit on Tom Thibodeau because they're tired of his act is hilarious. Teams go through shooting slumps. If you watch that Oklahoma City Thunder game and don't think this team is still trying really hard for their coach, I don't know what you're watching. Sometimes you miss shots. That's what happened in this game today. I don't think there's any indication, pardon me, that these guys are tired of Tibbs' message or they're not getting Tibbs' message. I mean, did you hear Isaiah Hartenstein wax poetic about Tom Thibodeau? You know, when the Knicks played Oklahoma City? Jalen Brunson loves him. Josh Hart loves him. Anthony Towns has talked about how much he likes playing for him. And you talk about, you know, the team being tired of Tibbs. Guys, it's a new team. Mikal Bridges has been here for like 10 minutes. OG Anunoby's barely played a full season here. I think we just got to the anniversary of that trade, right? So about 1 full season. He's tired of him after 1 year. Towns just got here. He's played half a year. Same for Bridges. You think Deuce McBride with his play style is tired of Tom Thibodeau? You think Brunson is? Not buying that one. Sorry. I appreciate the donation, Armand. I'll have to disagree with you on that. I don't think that's what we're seeing. I think we're just seeing a bad shooting slump. Iceman Sham. What's the point in having Shamet play fourth quarter minutes? He ain't going to get him any looks from 3. Well, again, I talked about Shamet as a shooter. I think it's a little bit overrated at this point, to be totally honest with you. But I think the Magic did a really good job with their defensive schemes, not allowing the Knicks to get threes. I mean, you're not running plays for Landry Shamet here. I mean, you don't want him catching off a movement and taking threes. You know, he's a guy that you drive and you kick to. And I think the Magic did a good job of not leaving 3-point shooters and not over pursuing the Knicks ball handlers to allow those open threes. That's when the Knicks only attempted 22 of them. And again, Shatma was 0 of 3 from 3. So I will give the Magic credit for the number of threes the Knicks took. I will not credit them for the number of threes the Knicks made with just 4. And again, Shatma was 0 of 3. And I don't think you're running plays for Landry Shamet. Appreciate the super chat, Iceman. Good stuff. Thanks for being with us here on the Knicks Film School post-game show. CC Kirby, watching MSG groan and yell every time Sims had the ball down low because he'd over-dribble or pass it out. It was rough. Even Clyde called him out. Yes. 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 I said it earlier. I noticed the same thing. Clyde mentioned it. Remember, Clyde's from an era. If you, the younger Knicks fans, and this is before my time. I was born in 1981. So I don't remember the 70s Knicks. I have watched a few of those classic games. And what's striking about those games, those teams that Clyde played on, everyone could hit a 15-foot shot. And I think the specialization of some guys in the league now where they just have no offensive game at all. And the Knicks have gone through many of these guys over the course. You know, go back to the Chris Dudley years. And, you know, I've tried to black out most of the years between 2003 and 2015 or 2018, however far you want to go into the David Fizdale era. Knicks have had plenty of these centers that can't score. And I think for Clyde, it's frustrating because in his era, all of these guys had the ability to make a shot. And Jericho Sims cannot make a shot. And he said it. He needs to be able to do something besides dunk. And he can't, which makes him very difficult to play, which is why Tom Thibodeau has taken him out of the rotation, but he was forced to put him back in here with the injury to Karl Anthony Towns. Could Ariel Hukporti give you a little bit more offensively? Maybe. Would he have hurt you on defense? Probably. I've liked what I've seen from Hukporti. I'm bullish on him long term. Is he ready to be a really good contributor now? Probably not. Can he give you more offensively than Jericho Sims? Absolutely. I don't think Jericho Sims, though, he didn't help offensively. Certainly not. And could they have had somebody that make up more 2-point baskets? Sure. But again, he's not changing the fact you shot 4 of 22 from 3. Appreciate it, CC. Good stuff. And you're right. Clyde he's frustrated with Jericho Sims. You're absolutely right about that. Mr. Knicks 101. Knicks could use another creator off the bench. Well, I think having Deuce McBride back will help. When you have as shallow of a roster as the Knicks do, missing even one guy that's going to play 25. What is Deuce averaging this year? Or 22 minutes a game, something like that. It hurts you. And I think we've really seen that since this hamstring injury has popped up for him. And I think it's really hurt the Knicks because he's one of the guys or the only guy that I think Thibodeau really trusts off the bench. And he's the guy that's going to give you a bit of a pop. You know, Cameron Payne, I know John said, don't you dare besmirch Cameron Payne on the podcast. Well, he's probably on the train going back to Brooklyn right now, so maybe I'll do a little bit of that. His shot selection drove me nuts a little bit, especially earlier in the year. But, and I think John made this point after a post-game podcast, the Cameron Payne that's not over-aggressive and takes some of those shots that drives me nuts, he's not a very useful player. You know, he's not a great passer. He's not a guy that's going to get a lot of people involved. He's a spark plug shooter and scorer. So I think he needs to do that, even if the shot selection sometimes is poor. But as Cameron Payne, I think, helped this team much over the past few weeks? No, I don't think he has. And that's why I would be okay with giving Tyler Kolek more of a run. Because even though I'm not sure at his size and relative lack of athleticism, at his size, he's going to give you a scoring punch, but I think he moves the ball well enough and facilitates and runs the pick and roll so well that he will help the team score more points. But then, do I think Cameron Payne's the reason the Knicks lost this game? No, but do I think Tyler Kolek is probably a better player than Cameron Payne? Yes. And Payne just hasn't had those games yet where he stepped in and given you those couple big threes off the bench or that energy play on defense. He had a couple steals. I think it was in the Bulls game. He had a couple steals, maybe. Was it the Thunder game? One of those games. But he hasn't quite given you, I think it was early in the Thunder game. that spark that you need off the bench, which frankly, I think, and I said this before, right? Tibbs is going to play the guys if they help you win. And I don't think Campaign has done a great job of that, which is why Tibbs, I think, has cut his minutes and is giving more to Shamet, who, even though, again, not maybe shooting as well as you would like, he's certainly giving you a lot of energy and activity on defense. And thank you, Mark, who's, by the way, great job. He's producing tonight for us, doing an excellent job, keeping me on track and giving us the super chats. Thank you. Deuce around 24.5 minutes per game this year for the Knicks. And again, on a short bench with that short of guys that Tibbs trusts, I think having a guy like Deuce in there is very important. Now, apparently he was running sprints. They said that on the MSG broadcast today. That hopefully means he'll be back soon. They're being very cautious, wisely so, with a hamstring. Those things can linger. As someone that covers the NFL, a hamstring pull can keep you out 4 weeks as a receiver, 6 weeks if it's a bad one. So you got to be careful with those. Make sure you're 100% before you come back. And I do wonder, by the way, with Brunson's three-point shooting and general shooting, which is an up and down, if that calf has something to do with it. He never make that excuse. I hesitate as well. If he's out there, he's out there. And that's kind of what the deal is when you play sports, right? If you're out there, you're going to be held to your standard. And hopefully, for whatever reason, his three-point shooting gets a little bit better. All right, John Hertzberger. He's up next. Thank you for the contribution and being part of the show, John. We get few open threes and we look weak when we do. Kolek facilitates, hits open threes, and he's not tired, not experimenting as Tibbs regressing to his mean. Yeah, I think I kind of just said that, John. We're on the same page. I do think the Magic would have just switched on Kolek, which would have forced him into a scorer in this game, and that's not what you want him to be. So I'm not sure they would have developed and gotten that many open threes, even in that situation, because I think the Magic, especially in the second half, started switching a whole lot. In fact, let me take a look at this. I have the game book up, which if you guys, by the way, if you guys didn't know this, NBA.com, if you go to the game, they have the box score section, then you go to the summary section at the bottom. They have something called the game book, which basically breaks down every NBA game stat-wise by quarter and by half. It's very handy. It gives you all the numbers. It's fantastic. So the Knicks shot 15 threes in the first half of this game. As we spoke about all game, they finished the game with 22. So just 7 threes in the second half. And again, I think that was a product of the Magic changing somewhat their approach on defense, where they just switched everything, which again limits the ability to move the ball and create those open threes that you're talking about. But look, again, would I like to see Tyler Kolek more? Absolutely. Do I think rookies are turning many wins into losses for the losses into wins for the Knicks? Probably not. But I do like the rookie class. I think they have promise. But again, that the difference today is 4 of 22 from 3, and not having Karl-Anthony Towns, and to a lesser extent not having Deuce McBride. And again, I think probably not having the pedal all the way down to the floor against an Orlando Magic team. John, thank you for the contribution. Thank you for being part of the post-game show. As we roll through a few more super chats here, let's go to Uptown Hoodie. Thank you for the contribution. Teams continue to shoot great as Knicks scramble on D. We struggle versus athleticism and length. Atlanta, Indianapolis, Bulls, Cleveland, Boston. I haven't seen Cleveland or Boston in a while. I'm looking forward to the Knicks playing those teams again. Our rotating cast looks horrible. Yeah, look, Uptown, I don't disagree. When the Knicks go to their bench, it doesn't look good, which is, I think, a reason why Tom Thibodeau doesn't play them all that much. Those guys got to play better. I'm with you. And that's Precious. That's Payne. The rookies, when they play, though, again, I think Kolek, when he plays, has been pretty good. Shamet's been okay. I think that's why he continues to play, probably more than the other bench guys at the current time. But look, that's the way the Knicks play defense, right? That's Tom Thibodeau's style. And I do think, by the way, we saw a period mostly in the third quarter of this game where the Knicks started to switch a lot more. I'm not quite sure why they went away from that in the fourth quarter. And I do feel like, again, it's tough when you watch it live once and you're not rewatching the game. I felt like they did go away from that a little bit in the fourth quarter. That's how you got a couple of those open window Carter threes, a couple Condavious Caldwell-Pope threes, one Cole Anthony three, I think, too late in that game. But I will say this. How do we know it's not part of the game plan to say, if Wendell Carter wants to shoot threes, let him? 18% from 3 heading into this game. Made like 8 or 9 of 53s. I think it was 9 of 50. So I think that's part of the game plan. Tom Thibodeau loves scouting reports. He prepares his guys. He knows which guys you want to shoot, which guys you don't want to let shoot. And tip your cap to Wendell Carter. 3 of 6 from 3 in this game. He's been a terrible three-point shooter all year. It's why Goga has replaced him in the starting lineup. 30% from 3 for Cole Anthony, 3 of 6. And Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Good history shooting threes, but this year, just a 30% three-point shooter. He shot 3 of 6, 50%. So 3 guys that have shot the 3 ball poorly over the course of this year. Again, Anthony and Caldwell-Pope, 30%. Wendell Carter, 18%. They combined to shoot 9 of 15 from 3 in this game. 9 of 15. You talk about Orlando's overall three-point shooting, 31% worse in the league. You know, that's including guys like Banchero, guys like Franz Wagner. You know, you look at their three-point percentage. Banchero's 34%, Wagner's 32%, Jalen Suggs 31%. And as a team, they're 31%. Mo Wagner's 36%. You know, De Silva, who's one of their better shooters at almost 34.5%, he was 0 of 7 in this game, shooting threes. So sometimes guys you don't expect to make them. That's the way it goes. To quote the great Jeff Van Gundy, it's a make or miss league. Thank you, Uptown. Appreciate the contribution. We got a few more we got to get through here on our super chats. Brunson is 5 of 40 from 3 since 12-23. Wild. Exactly right. CC, I've talked about that. He has not shot well, and that coincides with the Knicks' struggles. Again, heading into this game, 68 of 223 threes, 30%, starting with that Christmas Day game against the Spurs. And Brunson is a big part of that, 5 of 40. He's not shot the ball well from 3. Is it the calf? I don't know. Again, he's out there. I expect you to shoot the ball. You wouldn't think three-point shooting is affected by the calf. It would be more penetration, driving, pushing off of it, but you just don't know. Look, guys go through slumps. I expect Jalen Brunson to shoot his way out of it in short order. CC, good stuff. A couple really good super chats from you so far tonight. Playing undersized lineups and guys, too many consecutive minutes is out. Tibbs is destroying us. Also, you got to give Kolek a shot to run the second unit. We talked about Kolek. I feel you on that. I like Kolek. I wouldn't mind seeing it. I mean, undersized lineups. I mean, Towns is out. You're going to play Precious at the center, especially when you have a guy like Wendell Carter playing center for the Magic. You know, it's not like Wendell Carter killed the Knicks on the boards in this game against Precious Achiuwa. He had 2 rebounds, 0 offensive rebounds. 39 rebounds for the Magic in this game, 38 for the Knicks. This wasn't a rebounding issue. This wasn't an undersized issue to me. The Knicks didn't get bullied in this game without Karl Anthony Towns. That wasn't the problem. They couldn't score. Guys, they scored 94 points. And I don't think playing too many small guys is the reason they scored 94 points. You know, people have complained about Sims being out there. Sure, maybe. But again, 4 of 22 from 3. After making 3 of 6 to start the game, I believe they missed 15 consecutive threes. 15 straight. Hard to win many games when you miss 15 straight threes in the NBA and you only take 22 of them. Thank you, PD. Appreciate it. Appreciate the contribution and being part of the show. All right, we got a couple more here. Andrew Claudio. So, how's everyone's night? Do anything fun? Sadly, we're all suckers and we watch the Knicks. But look, guys, jokes aside, you know, this is still a very good basketball team. They had won 9 in a row. They had an even better stretch, not consecutive, but overall win-loss over a period of time. I don't have that in front of me. That they played really good basketball for the past month and a half against teams that aren't that good, sure, but they've won them. You beat the teams that are on your schedule. You can't do anything besides that. And you lose a game like this tonight, no wins are guaranteed in this league. You win, you beat the teams ahead of you. Now they're in a bit of a lull, all right? They're going through a point where they're shooting poorly. They're losing games that fans don't think they should lose. They lost one game to a great Oklahoma City Thunder team, a team that I think is the best of basketball. And now you lose to a Bulls team because you're gassed. And you lose to a team like the Magic because you can't hit the broadside of a barn and Karl Anthony Towns isn't playing. It happens. It's a long season. Teams are going to go through slumps like this. That's the NBA. Don't lose your mind. It's going to be okay. I would expect them to bounce back against the Raptors on Wednesday. They'll certainly be motivated against their former teammates. Emmanuel quickly is back. I don't think he's been hurt again since he came back from that injury. They'll be motivated. The Raptors also do not play very good defense, so you should get a lot of open looks in a game like that. And you hope the turnaround starts there, because if you continue shooting like this, and again, you go back to that Thunder game where I think John gave the stat after the game where it's the first time all year the Thunder shot over 50%. And the Knicks in that game from three shot 9 of 32, 28%. You keep getting outshot from three, you're going to keep losing games. But again, this is a good Knicks team, guys. Could they use a little bit more depth? Sure. Might that happen at the trade deadline? Maybe. Again, the asset puzzle is rough. I know Jeremy did a cap or no cap over the weekend with trade targets. I have not listened to that one yet. I'm told it's fantastic. I saw our good friend Alec Burks was in the graphic. It always comes back to Alec Burks, doesn't it? So maybe they could figure something out to help them get a little bit more depth, guys that Tibbs can trust to help this team. I think at some point you can't survive 40 minutes a game. Get that down to 37, 36. I think that helps you. But this is still a really good Knicks team. Make sure you don't forget that. It's okay to get frustrated. It's okay to get mad about losses. All that's okay. But when you put your head down on the pillow at night, and I had trouble sleeping after that Thunder game, it bothered the hell out of me. Really did. But just remember, this team is still a very good basketball team. They can compete with anybody when they play their best basketball. And there's no reason to think they will not play their best basketball in some of these big spots moving forward, despite the current 3-game losing streak and a little bit of a lull that they're in right now. Thank you, Andrew Claudia. Hope you and John are getting home safe. All right, here we go. We got Robert Cross. We got a couple Giants things. Here we go. I'll give you a couple Giants things. We'll do back-to-back here, Mark. So Robert W. Cross first, long fan of Big Blue, going back to the Crunch Bunch days, asking about Shane and Dable coming back, not happy with it. Do we have a second Giants-related one too, Mark? If so, we can flash it on here. Robert, thank you for the contribution. Mythic Monty, if quarterbacks are gone by pick 3, Hunter or trade down? All right, good questions. First, I'll address, and by the way, if you're a Giants fan and you want to hear me talk Giants, Big Blue Kickoff Live is our live daily show, 12:30, Giants.com, Giants app. I'll be on tomorrow at 12:30. If you want to call in, we take phone calls live on those shows. If you want to talk Giants football with us, we can certainly do that. So that's our Giants content. We also have our Giants Huddle podcast and our draft season podcast. If you want to talk draft like Mythic Monty here, you can go find those, subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or in the Giants app or giants.com/podcast. So, all right. I'll take the glasses off for this, but I don't have to read the super chats anymore. On Shane and Dable, I am personally close with both those guys, and I try to make this very clear when I am doing our shows. I'm employed by the Giants. For people that don't know this, but they do not tell me what to say on our shows. But as a human being, as someone that sees Brian Dable and Joe Shane in the lunchroom and talks to them and knows them and thinks they're good people and smart guys and they have great families, I'm never going to say that somebody in that building should lose their job. They're my coworkers. I don't think that's my place. I don't think it's the right thing to do when I'm friends with people. So I'm never going to do that, first and foremost. So I'm happy they're back because of my personal relationship with them. I understand the fans' frustration with the record. Trust me, they are frustrated with the record. John Marin, Steve Tisch, the Giants owners, Mr. Marin, Mr. Tisch, they are frustrated and upset with the record. But I think they like the way the two guys work together. Even though the results have not been there, I think the way Joe Shane has built out the scouting staff in the front office is something that John Mara appreciates. It's a well-oiled machine up there. Again, even though the results are not what you want it to be, I think there's hesitancy to kind of tear down everything that's been built when he thinks the people and the process is sound, that after 3 years, you're starting over from scratch again, which resets your organization, what type of players you want. Do you have to then flush out guys on the roster that the new regime doesn't want? All that stuff. There's a price to not having continuity. Now, you don't do continuity for the sake of continuity either. If it's the wrong guys, you don't keep them around just for the sake of keeping them around. But I do think keeping the two guys together is the right thing to do. I think we saw when the Giants kept Jerry Reese but let go of Tom Coughlin, we saw the difficulties that created later on. So I like the idea of keeping those guys together as a unit. I think they work well together. Joe Shane understands the players Brian Dable wants. I think there's great communication. They get along. So I think keeping them together made sense and not splitting, keeping one and not keeping the other, right? So that's how I view that. And again, you hope the success of the draft class this year, and it's 1 year, you don't draft the draft class judge a draft class after 1 year, that it's a sign of things to come for how Joe Schoen will draft moving forward, despite maybe some of the guys that so far have not met expectations from the first couple classes. And you move forward and you hope that the next draft class looks like the one from this past year. And I think Joe Schoen has done a pretty good job with these mid-level free agent signings. You know, Bobby Okereke was a good signing. You look at Jermaine Illuminor, I think he's a fantastic signing. John Runyon was a good signing. Greg Van Roten was a good signing. So I think they brought in some free agents that have certainly worked out. And I hope the Giants will have a lot of cap space this offseason. And I think rather than, dumping it all into one or two guys, and I don't think, and Joe Schoen was asked this today, he's somebody that's going to, trade future picks and, do a lot of signing bonuses with low base salaries and, go for it all and sacrifice the future and go win now this year. I don't think that's what they should do. I don't think that's what they will do. And Joe Schoen said they would not do that today when he spoke to the media. And then as for the draft, it's a good question. I do a ton of draft work, Mythic, and I appreciate the contribution and the question. I've probably watched around 28 to 30 guys at this point in the draft. It is not as strong a draft class as last year in terms of the quarterbacks or the position players. I would have this group of quarterbacks somewhere in the J.J. McCarthy to Bo Nix range. So 4 to 8, 4 to 9 in that area. I like Cam Ward more than Shedeur Sanders. I think Travis Hunter is the only guy that would have broken into my top 10 in last year's draft. Abdul Carter is my next favorite position guy. I don't think anyone's in the Joe Alt, Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison Jr. league. I would probably have Adunze and Brock Bowers ahead of most of the guys too. I have not finished my evaluations. Travis Hunter could be ahead of those guys when all is said and done. I'll have to look at it. The question is, do the Giants try to trade up for a quarterback? I talked to a buddy of mine that works in Cleveland. He does not think it's a sure thing that the Browns pick a quarterback at 2. He could see them trading the pick. Do you trade a future pick to move up to get one of these 2 quarterbacks? I don't know. Is that worth the price of admission with the quarterback and the quality of the play there? I don't know what the Giants think about that. Brian Dable's not looked at the quarterbacks yet. His opinion is going to be part of me. Wholly important, very important when they figure that stuff out. So I think that remains to be seen. I think the consensus is that Travis Hunter is the best position player in the draft. He's not going to be a full-time player on both sides of the ball. What does he want to do? Does he want to be a corner? Does he want to be a wide receiver? I like the idea of a full-time corner and then a, 8 to 12 play package each week where you can play a little bit of wide receiver and help you there. But is that what he wants to do? There's more money at wide receiver. It's a more glamorous position. That's a conversation you have to have. Where do you play him? Where does he want to play? Abdul Carter, I think, is going to be a really good edge player, even though he doesn't have a ton of sack production per se. But he's a great athlete. Will Johnson, the cornerback out of Michigan, is someone that a lot of people like. I like Mason Graham, the defensive tackle out of Michigan, better. Good player. Ted McMillan, the 6'5" receiver out of Arizona. Really good wide receiver, good player. A couple offensive linemen. Banks, the LSU tackle. I don't know if they're top 6 guys for me, top 5 guys for me, but some people do. I think there's a lot of varying opinions on this year's draft class where there's not really a consensus top 10, top 15. So I think as I continue to study these players and we all kind of get more familiar with them over the past 3 months, I think there's going to be a lot of very varying opinions on this class and where guys rank out. And pardon me, for that reason, Mythic, I would be very willing to trade down in this class. I like the idea of gathering picks. I think the Giants have some stars on their roster, from Neighbors to Dexter Lawrence to Brian Burns to Andrew Thomas. But I think, especially on defense, they need to really grow depth in the secondary. Starters in the secondary, too. They need depth on the defensive line. I think you need more depth on the offensive line. So when a guy like Andrew Thomas is hurt, things don't fall off as much as they did, though. This wasn't like it was last year. It was a lot better, even without Andrew Thomas, than it was last year. So I think you spread that money around in free agency. I think you gather picks, you get volume, you bring in as many good players as you can, and you try to get solid to good starters in a lot of spots to put your star players in a position to be stars. And you hope they stay healthy, right? Last year, you lost Andrew Thomas, lost Dexter Lawrence, lost Bobby Okereke. That's going to hurt you, right? But you got to find a quarterback, and that's really the most important thing, which is what and why this offseason is going to be so interesting and I think controversial for people. I'm of the throw as many darts at the position as you can theory. So bring in a veteran, draft a guy in the second round, heck, then draft a guy in the fifth round. Or if you want to use your first round pick on one, that's fine too. What do the Giants think of Jalen Milroe? Could you pick a player at 3 and then trade, a couple day 2 picks to move up into the first round to pick Milroe, right? And then you get your long-term developmental quarterback to play behind your veteran that you brought in free agency. And Milroe, you could argue, has the best physical tools of anyone in this class. Better athlete, better arm than both Ward and Sanders. Again, I'm more of a Ward guy. I think some decision-making and turnovers are problematic, but I love the touch he puts on the ball, arm angles, his poise, things of that nature. And I think Shedeur Sanders is a good player too, right? He's accurate, he's tough, has a lot of the intangibles you like out of that spot too. So I think you just throw darts at the quarterback position. You trade down if you don't like one of the quarterbacks, or if somebody wants to give you a haul for Travis Hunter. I would even consider that, to be quite honest with you. I know other Giant fans would jump at Hunter, and I would not blame them for doing that either. I think he's a really good player. But I wouldn't mind gathering picks in a draft class where I don't think there's a ton of consensus great players, though I think Travis Hunter might be one of the few consensus great players in this class. So you might not want to pass on him. But a lot of work to do. 3.5 months, actually almost 4 months of watching tape here, getting ready for the draft, which is the end of April, which I can't wait to do it. I love this stuff. I try to get up to over 120, 150 players every year that I watch. So I kind of have the first 3 to 4 rounds of the draft covered. And again, we have all our draft coverage on Draft Season, our Giants podcast, and the Giants Huddle podcast, which you can find at the Giants app, giants.com/podcast, or just search for them on your favorite podcast platform, along with Big Blue Kickoff Live, our daily call-in show. Just want to thank everybody. I appreciate everybody being with us. Again, if you want to come out Friday, they're going to have a Knicks hangout at T-Squared Social at East 42nd Street in New York City. You hang out with the KFS crew, Macri. Sure he'll be having some libations. Claudio. I don't know if DJ is going to be there. Who else from the crew is going to be there? But I'm sure it'll be a lot of guys. Go, hang out. T-Squared is a great place to watch the game. They got a lot of fun stuff there to do as well. Family-friendly atmosphere. A lot of fun. Go check it out. It's going to be a lot of fun. Should be a fantastic game. If it's anything like the game against the Thunder over the weekend, it should be a lot of fun to watch out with the crew. And you can watch Macri lose his mind as the Knicks hopefully play and win a really tough game against the best team in basketball, the Oklahoma City Thunder. All right. I want to thank Mark for guiding me through this. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I love talking Knicks with you. I miss doing my Bank Shot podcast. 2 kids, just don't have the time, folks. Wish I could. But happy to contribute to Knicks Film School. Jonathan, Andrew, and the whole crew, Benji, DJ, the whole crew. They do a great job. Happy to be a part of it. Happy to help out. Happy to talk Knicks with you. Appreciate all your super chats tonight for getting us through almost an hour and 20 minutes here. Really enjoy being with you. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great evening. Knicks take on the Raptors on Wednesday. Then again, you have the game on Friday against the Thunder. Thank you for tuning in to the KFS postgame show presented by BetUS. Please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and leave a 5-star rating whenever you are listening to this episode. Like the YouTube channel, 5-star review on the podcast, all that stuff. Subscribe to the KFS newsletter. I'm sure Macri will be up to all hours of the night writing that tonight, coming home from that very disheartening loss to the Orlando Magic. Thanks for being with us. Knicks fall to the Magic. I'm John Schmeelk. We'll see you next time at Knicks Film School.